clarity to the noise.
This is XL News Hour on XL 106.9 FM.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on the XL News Hour on XL 106.9 FM. It's the 20th day of May 2026, and on this day in 1948, a powerful and highly unusual tornado swept through Lagos, Nigeria, leaving widespread destruction and collapsed buildings in its wake. My name is Okodi, and as we begin the news this evening, here are the headlines of the major stories. Akwa Ibom State Police Command rescued 2 women from lynching by an angry mob in Uyo. Akwa Ibom Fire Service seeks support of individuals and corporate organizations to boost operations. And outside the Akwa Ibom State, President Bola Tinubu declares end to era of manual inefficiency in Nigeria's public service. And in politics, Kano State's government accuses Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso of indirectly working for President Bola Tinubu's return in 2027. In business, CBN's Monetary Policy Committee retains monetary policy rate at 26.5%. And on the international scene, several countries summon Israeli ambassadors over detention of detained activists during interception of Gaza-bound flotilla. And in sport, head coach xl unveils Super Eagles squads for Unity Cup, Poland and Portugal friendlies. Details of these and more in a moment. And now the news in full. Operatives of the Akwa Ibom State Police Command have rescued 2 women from being lynched by an angry mob in Uyo, the state capital. The command's public relations officer, DSP Timfon John, who disclosed this in a statement, said the incident occurred on Tuesday at about 9:45 a.m. along Ring Road 3 in Uyo. She said the irate mob stripped the 2 women naked, brutally assaulted them, and attempted to subject them to unlawful execution over allegations yet to be verified by law enforcement agencies. She said the state commissioner for health, Dr. Ekem Emmanuel John, who witnessed the horrifying scene while on his way to the office, alerted the police after observing that one of the women had already sustained severe injuries and was bleeding profusely. She further said that following the immediate intelligence-led operations, one suspect identified as Emedion Robert, a male of 22 years of Ikodekwere in Ibesikbo, Asutan local government area, was arrested at the scene for actively inciting the mob and allegedly calling for the execution of the victims during the violent attack. John said the Commissioner of Police, CP Baba Mohammed Azare, has ordered a comprehensive manhunt for every individual connected to the act, vowing that all perpetrators, sponsors, and accomplices involved in the attempted mob killing will be identified, arrested, and prosecuted without delay. The Commissioner of Police stressed that Akwa Ibom State will not be turned into a jungle where criminal mobs brutalize citizens at will under any guise whatsoever, warning that the police command will invoke the full weight of the law against persons engaging in acts capable of threatening public peace, safety, and security. He further emphasized that no allegation against any individual justifies public humiliation, torture, assault, or attempted murder, noting that every suspect remains innocent until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. Away from that, Akwa Ibom State Fire Service has called on the government, organizations, and relevant agencies to support its operations. The call was made by the Public Relations Officer of Akwa Ibom State Fire Service, Emmanuel Udofia, while speaking on the XL Super Breakfast Show today. A fire outbreak at Johnson Street by Akpanande Market in Uyo, where 15 shops and goods worth millions of naira was lost due to the incapacitation or lack of diesel in a fire truck. According to the spokesman of the agency, the fire service currently operates without a proper budget after being moved to a new department that does not adequately cater to its funding needs.
There's been a movement from Ministry of Works to occupational safety, right? Budget had already been made under the Ministry of Works and Fire Service. Occupational safety does not have budget that covers fire service. It's just a new department we are moving into, yes, entirely. So now with Ministry of Works, they were able to leverage on a budgetary allocation by giving us diesel regularly.
The fire service spokesman further appealed to the government, Ministry of Works, agencies, organizations, and well-meaning individuals to support the fire service in ensuring effective and uninterrupted operations.
We're not trying to model or justify for any position. So we also want to lend my voice to the Ministry of Works. However, they were able to help us to run in the system concurrently without any issues, or lack or whatsoever. They can also be helping while we are making efforts in order to cope this particular situation. I still lend my voice to both public and individual personality, the private personality, to help us push the fire service forward, because safety is every man's business.
Speaking on the cause of the fire, which resulted from a faulty electrical socket, Udofia advised residents to regularly inspect and replace faulty electrical appliances to prevent fire incidents. He also urged the public to always remain safety conscious. Away from that, 4 family heads in Ikorasat Nsaribum local government area, alongside the village youth president, have submitted a petition to the Akwa Ibom State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, expressing a vote of no confidence in the village head, Etidong Aniedi Efyongokban. The petition, dated May 11, 2026, accused the traditional ruler of alleged misconduct, abuse of office, high-handedness, and actions described as unbecoming of a village head. The petitioners include Obong Edith Japheth of Nong Nkwo family, Obong Sunday Yang of Nongekbo family, Obong Edemefyong of Nongekwo Ubo family, Obong Matthew Ebong of Nong Umokban family, as well as the youth president Elijah Efyongokun, acting on behalf of their families and the community. According to the petition prepared by their legal representative, the community leaders alleged that since assuming office in 2014, the village head has failed to constitute a functional village council and has allegedly administered the affairs of the community without adequate consultation with stakeholders. They further accused him of allegedly creating division within the community, intimidating dissenting voices, and failing to provide proper accountability for village funds and development levies. The petition also raised allegations bordering on land disputes, intimidation of residents, and abandonment of development projects in the area. The family heads and youth representatives and leadership therefore appealed to the state government and the Traditional Rulers Council to urgently intervene and facilitate actions aimed at restoring peace, unity, and development in Ikora Sansat community. They also called for the emergence of a new village head through what they described as lawful and traditional procedures. And outside the Akwa Ibom State now, President Bola Tinubu has declared that the era of manual inefficiency in Nigeria's public service must give way to transparency, speed, and accountability, as he directed all ministries, departments, and agencies to deepen digitalization process across their operations. Tinubu made the declaration today at the opening ceremony of the International Civil Service Conference 2026 held in Abuja. The president was represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume. Speaking on the conference theme, Reforms, Resilience, and Results, Tinubu said Nigeria's public service was gradually shifting from policy formulation to measurable impact under the Renewed Hope agenda. He said the civil service has shown resilience in the face of global economic shocks and rising citizens' expectations, adding that reforms were already yielding tangible results. Tinubu disclosed that 38 ministries and extra-ministerial departments were already operating fully paperless, end-to-end electronic workflow systems, describing the development as a major milestone in governance reform. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu's special advisor on policy communication, Daniel Bwala, says Nigerians are constitutionally empowered to defend themselves against attackers, including in situations involving lethal threats, while assuring that the government is working to curb insecurity across the country. Bwala made the statement during an interview today while reacting to recent violent incidents, including the killings in Esiele community in Orire local government area of Oyo State and the abduction of teachers and pupils at a primary school. Bwala stressed that the Nigerian Constitution guarantees citizens the right to protect themselves.
There are many layers for self-defense. If I am in my house and you come into my house and try to harm me, any lethal weapon I use and kill you by defending myself is guaranteed by the Constitution. So I think that the Nigerian people in villages, in towns, in places where the presence of government is not very much in terms of law enforcement and security people, you can come together and create a vanguard that are permitted by law for the purposes of defense of your community.
Explaining the government's position on insecurity, Bwala said criminality is a global challenge, but insisted that collective action would help address the menace. In this next report, Vice President Kashim Shettima has revealed that barely 3 months after President Bola Tinubu assumed office, some individuals from Borno State had visited the president and advised him to stop wearing the traditional attire presented to him during the 2023 electioneering campaign. According to the vice president, the visitors alleged that the garments had been spiritually manipulated and could allegedly endanger the president's life.
Suspicion smears our relationships. And it ought not to be. We are essentially one people tied to a common destiny. He said, sit down. Your people came to me and said, I should stop wearing those braces you gave me. But he said their story did not add up, because when you gave me those braces, I was an aspirant. I wasn't the candidate. Neither were you the vice presidential candidate. For 1 week, to prove to them that he is not pettish, he wore those braces. These are some of the gimmicks that is taking place in power cycles in Nigeria nowadays.
Shettima cited the incident as an example of what he described as the growing culture of suspicion and mistrust in Nigerian public life. Moving on now, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has launched a free health insurance enrollment and medical outreach program for inmates in correctional facilities across the FCT, with more than 1,500 inmates expected to benefit from the initiative. The program, which began at the Medium Security Custodial Center in Kuje, is the first formal enrollment of inmates into the FCT health insurance scheme under the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. Authorities said the intervention could later be expanded to correctional facilities in Gwagwalada and Suleja. The initiative was introduced on the directive of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, as part of efforts to expand access to healthcare under the Renewed Hope agenda. And just before we step on the brakes tonight, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, says it dismantled what it described as a sophisticated Nigerian-Mexican methamphetamine production syndicate operating from a clandestine laboratory hidden deep inside a forest in Ogun State. The operation, carried out by operatives of the agency's Special Operations Unit, led to the arrest of 10 suspects, including the alleged kingpin, 3 Mexican nationals, and 6 Nigerian collaborators. It also said that the seizure led to the seizure of methamphetamine and chemical substances valued at over 480 billion naira. Speaking during a media briefing in Abuja, NDLEA Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Brigadier General Buba Marwa, retired, said the operation followed months of intelligence gathering and coordinated raids across Ogun and Lagos states within 48 hours. Marwa said the syndicate operated a large-scale methamphetamine laboratory located in Abidagba Forest in Ijebu East local government area of Ogun State. The NDLEA boss disclosed that operatives stormed the forest laboratory on May 16, catching members of the cartel off guard while processing illicit substances. Marawa further disclosed that another tactical team simultaneously raided the Lekki residence of the alleged cartel leader, Anochili Innocent, where he was also arrested. You're listening to the XL News Hour on XL 106.9 FM. We'll take a breather now. We'll be back in just a moment with more stories from the world of politics and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
Citizens have a critical role to play in the governance process. You make commitments and promises that you're going to better their lives. And so for that to happen, you have to work hand in hand with them. And if you don't, you will just live in a bubble.
Governance is everyone's business, and citizenship participation brings about good governance. Join Samuel Williamson, Mr. President, and Rachel David White on the XL Citizen Center. Weekdays by 7 p.m. Exclusive to XL 106.9 FM.
It's Saturday morning and the family fun has just begun. Welcome to the Excellent Family Center, the Kiddies and Family Magazine Show on XL 106.9 FM. 3 whole hours of laughter, learning, games, stories, music, and everything family. From kiddies shout-outs to parenting tips, cartoons to culture, we've got it all.
No. I mean, amateur. lie down before you hurt yourself. You gotta put your past behind you. Look, kid, bad things happen, and you can't do anything about it, right?
Right.
Repeat after me. Hakuna Matata.
What?
Hakuna Matata. It means no worries.
So, gather the kids, call mom and dad, and let's dive into the fun. This is Excellent Family Center, your feel-good family morning. Elections are not just about voting. They are about understanding. Before the Ballot is XLFM's civic education program preparing citizens for the 2027 elections. One conversation at a time. Know your right. Know the process. Know your power. Mondays, 9:30 a.m. on the XL Super Breakfast Show. Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. on XL Citizen Center. Before the Ballot, power belongs to the informed.
Welcome back to the XL News Hour on XL 106.9 FM. And talking politics now, Kano State Governor's spokesperson Sanusi Bature Tufa has alleged that the former Kano State Governor and NNPP leader Rabiu Kwankwaso is indirectly working for President Bola Tinubu ahead of the 2027 general elections. Tufa insists that the proposed political arrangement involving Kwankwaso and Labour Party's Peter Obi is only temporary and unlikely to survive. Speaking in an interview, he claimed that the new Nigeria People's Party (NNPP) is no longer viable as a political platform for the 2027 elections. He argued that the internal consultations had already produced a consensus on alternative political options involving the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC.
What I want to make clear here is that there are those who are working for Tinubu openly, directly in the public space, and there are also those who can work for Tinubu behind the scene. I believe whatever Kwankwaso is doing will favor Tinubu at the end of it because Kwankwaso has worked for Tinubu in 2023. Kwankwaso is also working for Tinubu in 2027 behind the scene.
Bature added that Kwankwaso himself initially showed interest in indirectly engaging President Tinubu over political negotiations, but later abandoned the process after travel plans intervened. Meanwhile, former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi paid a courtesy visit to Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso on Tuesday night. The two Nigerian Democratic Congress NDC leaders met shortly after the party's screening committee cleared Obi for its presidential primary ahead of the 2027 elections. In a post on X today, Kwankwaso confirmed the meeting at his Maitama residence in the nation's capital. He described Obi as his brother and expressed optimism about the party's prospects. The visit comes days after Obi and Kwankwaso formally joined the NDC in early May this year, following their departure from the African Democratic Congress ADC. Still talking party politics, former People's Democratic Party presidential aspirant and veteran journalist Dele Momodu has warned that continued debate over zoning at the presidency ahead of the 2027 general election could work in favor of President Bola Tinubu. He argued that opposition politicians should focus on strategic consensus rather than regional sentiments if they hope to unseat the incumbent. According to Momodu, there is no basis for zoning, and opposition parties risk weakening their chances if they continue to insist that the presidency must remain. in the south.
There is no basis for zoning. Anybody who wants to remove Tinubu will have to come from the opposite direction. If all of them are going to split themselves into pieces, and strategically, if AGC is serious now, they had better go and find an Atiku, a Tambua from the northern, because that's the only place now that is free. There is no zoning in the constitution of Nigeria, so let's stop distracting ourselves.
Former People's Democratic Party presidential aspirant Dele Momodu speaking there. And down in the southwest Lagos State, lawmaker Desmond Elliott has officially withdrawn from the All Progressives Congress APC primary election for the Surulere 1 constituency in the House of Assembly, citing alleged intimidation of his supporters. Elliott announced his withdrawal today at the Paddington Mini Stadium in Western Avenue, where his party's primary was being conducted. The actor-turned-politician said he made several appeals to the electoral officers to grant his supporters access to the polling venue, but his requests were ignored. He also alleged that many of his supporters were denied access to the polling venue despite repeated appeals to electoral officials. Following the incident, his supporters staged a peaceful protest and gradually exited the venue along with him. And now away from politics to a story of focus tonight. The World Biodiversity Day, officially known as the International Day for Biological Diversity, is observed globally every May 22. To raise awareness on the importance of protecting the rich variety of life on Earth, from plants to animals to forest, rivers, and marine ecosystems that sustain human existence. The 2026 theme, Acting Locally for Global Impact, highlights the critical role of grassroots actions, indigenous knowledge, and community-based initiatives in addressing the growing global threat of biodiversity loss. For Akwa Ibom State, the conversation is particularly significant as a coastal state blessed with mangrove forest, wetlands, rivers, farmlands, and rich aquatic life. Akwa Ibom remains one of Nigeria's ecologically important regions. However, environmental challenges such as oil pollution, deforestation, coastal erosion, plastic waste, overfishing, and indiscriminate sand mining continue to threaten the biodiversity and local livelihoods. And so, today's conversation examines how communities, government agencies, environmental advocates, and ordinary citizens in Akwa Ibom State can take practical local actions that contribute to global biodiversity conservation goals and under the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. With me in the studio this evening, Professor Edem Enyang, a professor of everything sciences, joins us in the studio to give context to this conversation. Good evening, Professor Enyang. Welcome to another interesting conversation on Everything Planet.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
What exactly is biodiversity, and why should we in Akwa Ibom State really care about it?
Well, our biodiversity, in a very simple definition, is the sum total of life on Earth. That is the biological diversity on the planet Earth, which covers the plants, the animals, the microbes. And when we talk about animals, we talk about the diversity of species underwater. There's aquatic species, the species on land, and those ones that we cannot even see with our eyes except to use microscopic instruments to look at them.
Okay.
And they're very important because in Akwa Ibom and anywhere else in the world, life revolves around the biodiversity.
All right. Also with us in the studio is the state coordinator of NESRA in Akwa Ibom State, Mfon Uko Nkanang. She joins us live as well. Welcome, man.
Thank you very much. Good evening, all.
All right. So I have a question, an introductory question for you too. World Biodiversity Day is on Friday, May 22. But why is it important in today's world?
It's very important because all species play a very important role in life, including plants, animals, the microbes, and in one way or the other, they all interact for the benefit of man. It's also important to note this because Nigeria is a signatory to the Convention on Biodiversity. We call it Convention on Biological Diversity. We signed the agreement.
Okay.
In 1992, that was in Brazil during the 8th summit, and later endorsed it in 1994. And since then, we in Nigeria became part of that convention, and we enforces the law that has to do with that convention. And that's the part the NESRA plays to create awareness concerning the convention and also enforce the law.
All right. All right, one more question for you, State Coordinator NESRA, before we get to another question. This year's theme, Acting Locally for Global Impact. You've spoken about your role in creating awareness. Are you really working, or what does this theme mean in practical terms?
It actually means biodiversity is national security. It supports food security, public health, water resources, climate stability, and livelihoods. Loss of forests, wetlands, wildlife, and aquatic ecosystem directly affect economic growth and human survival. Local actions have global consequences. Illegal logging, pollution, bush burning, oil spills, habitat destruction, and wildlife trafficking occurring within local communities contribute to local biodiversity loss. So that's why it is very, very important to create awareness.
It's a lot of importance there, but we'll come back to that. Dr. Tube Emmanuel Akpan is also here with us. So Dr. Tube, let's get some context to this conversation. What are some of the major biodiversity resources or ecological assets that are unique to Akwa Ibom State?
Thank you so much. Akwa Ibom State is rich in biodiversity. We call it hotspots for biodiversity. We have so many ecosystems that is rich with biodiversity. We have mangrove, we have Atlantic Ocean, we have a freshwater ecosystem, we have forest, primary and secondary forest everywhere, that we have so much plants around us, and we know the roots of plants in our ecosystem. So it's very important that for us to educate the communities how they can take care of all these plants that we have around.
How they can take care of all of the plants that we have around.
Because they are very important. You know, some plants are indicators, like what we have in Ibno, all the coastal environment. They have a mangrove ecosystem with unique plants, Rhizophyra and Avicennia, where the Mfi and other items that is coming from, the shellfish is coming from. And when you see in the market, you know, this one is from Ibno, you know, this one is from Oron, and all that. So we are rich in biodiversity. There is plants that is taking care of that. And the challenge that we have in those coastal environments is invasive species. So we need to educate the communities how they can take care of their ecosystem so that this invasive species will not destroy their biodiversity.
Absolutely. Professor Edem Enyang, you are Professor of Wildlife Sciences. I like to call you Professor of Everything Living. A professor of everything that is alive, that is breathing in some way. How important are these, the mangroves or the plants that Dr. Utibe are there, the states, the mangroves, the rivers, the coastal ecosystems, you know, to livelihoods and food security in Akwa Ibom?
Yeah, you see, life is a chain that is in nature. Plants, animals, in their various forms, their life is interwoven like that giant chain in a cycle that everything is interlinked, in the sense that, for example, they've talked about the plants, the mangrove, for example. Without their existence, life on earth will collapse. Take, for example, we have bees, honeybees, what we call okwok.
Okwok, yeah.
The honeybees alone play a role in fertilizing plants. And those plants reproduce.